Hey everyone, this is Mr. Chen. So this video will have 6 topics. First one, results from your music tech album art voting. First responses from both Tuesday and Thursday. Essential questions from both Tuesday and Thursday. Our Tuesday notes going over sampling and some review of our music history topics. Thursday notes, automations and loops on Soundtrap. And then making sure you have all the requirements for our current project, which is our loop project. Alright, so a quick announcement, a reminder for you guys about your test next week. If you're on A day, your test is going to be next Wednesday. If you're on B day, your test is going to be next Thursday. So here we go. The first topic that we have is the results from your Music Tech album art voting. And the winner is, drumroll please, and boom! It's Night Sky and Night Cityscape / Dark theme. So those of you who are volunteering to maybe design the album art, drawing it or painting it or watercolor or digital, whatever you guys want, go ahead. That is the theme, the Night Sky Night Cityscape. Make sure to submit it. I don't know, I'll give you guys until after spring break so we can all start voting on which design that we want as a class. Our next topic, first responses from Tuesday and Thursday. So let's go over the first one here. Looking at my screen, the first responses from Tuesday, March 15th and March 16th is over the song Thinking About You by Frank Ocean. Just like on the test next week, if you have questions like this, you will get the song and also the lyrics to it. So what is the form of this song? So if you look at the lyrics, try to find patterns where, does this repeat somewhere? So the answer would be A, B, A, B, A, B-ish. What is the melody? So it's a song where somebody's singing, so the melody would be lyrics or the voice or the singing. In the beginning, what types of chords are being played? Let's listen to it real quick to see what it sounds like in the beginning. A tornado flew around my room before you could. So in the very beginning, you hear some strings playing individual notes. So what type of chords have individual notes? Broken. Okay, so I need to put in the melody in real quick. So I would say voice for that one. What role is the bass instrument in this song? So if you listen closely, we're going to go to the spot where the drums and the really big bass something, an instrument with the low notes with different pitches is coming in. It comes in with the drum, so that means it's reinforcing the rhythm. And obviously, do you like the style of music? Yes or no? And please defend it with musical terms. So don't say I don't know or I don't like it because I don't like it. Put some musical terms in your answer. Let's move on to Thursday, March 17th or March 18th's first responses. If you're in 6th or 7th grade, please put in, so this is the very first question you'll see in first responses here for Thursdays and Wednesdays. If you're interested in an advanced music technology class next year, give me a yes or no. You putting yes doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna guarantee be in my class. This is just for interest. If we have enough people interested, then we might be getting an intermediate / advanced music tech course. We'll be learning more about obviously how to make even better music. We'll use more professional software in our class, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into the technology part and also some engineering, like learning how to fix your audio cables, your headphone cables, learning how to build amplifiers, how speakers work, that type of stuff. Okay, if you're interested, go ahead and hit yes. If you're not, I'm not going to be offended, just hit no. But this is mainly for the people who enjoy my class so far and want to keep going and dive a little bit deeper. And here we go. The song for Thursday or Wednesday was Wake Me Up When September Ends by Green Day. And again, there are the lyrics. Here we go. What is an example of the hook of the song? So remember, a hook is a phrase of the song that is memorable to you. So usually that's probably something that repeats a lot, right? Which of these phrases repeat a lot? Wake me up when September ends, for sure, because it repeats so much in this song. Summer has come and passed, yes, because that is repeated quite a bunch, 3 times, in fact, in this song. 7 years has gone so fast only appears once in this whole song, I think. So yeah, not not very memorable in my opinion. And then Like We Did When Spring Began, I think that also only appears once in the song. So again, not that memorable. So those two would not be a good example of a hook. Melody, once again, it's a band singing, so that would be the voice. In the beginning, what types of chords are being played? If you listen to the beginning, the guitar is playing individual notes of a chord. So that would be what again? Broken. Exactly. Here we go. And let's listen to if we can hear the bass instrument. That's the next question. What is the role of the bass instrument? Let me skip through a little bit. That's the drums, not quite the bass in yet. So the bass actually comes in much later in the song. So yeah, the bass guitar comes in almost at the middle of the song. In a band, the bass guitar usually is reinforcing the rhythm because it's playing constant beats. And also, it's helping the harmony as well. It's reinforcing the harmony notes that the guitar is playing. So it's reinforcing the rhythm and or harmony. What genre is this song? Definitely not rap, hip hop, or pop. It is definitely a type of rock. And again, give me your opinion whether or not you like this style of music, and then defend it on the next page with musical terms. All right, so that is your first responses. Next topic is essential questions. So I'm just going to go over the answers real quick. Sure, you guys probably already turned this in, but if not, go ahead and try to follow along. This is good for studying because, again, if you remember in the last test, there were some essential questions and you would have to complete these with complete sentences. So let's go over to Tuesday's essential questions. Okay, so the first one, the what. What is sampling? So simply provide me the definition I gave you for sampling, which is assigning live recorded sounds to individual MIDI triggered keys. Okay, so you record something, assign it to a keyboard, and then boom, that is sampling. Next question here is the how. How would you create a sample instrument from your voice? How would you do that? You would record every single pitch your voice can sing from low to high. Okay, so you go and record every single possible do every single possible note in between, going all the way up, and then you assign that to notes on a piano keyboard, keys on a piano, and then basically make yourself sing on the piano keyboard. Lastly, for the Tuesday essential questions, why do we sample? So there's 3 answers to this question. The first one, to remix and use in other projects. 2, to preserve sounds that may be lost in the future. 3, to overcome physical limits of an instrument. So 1, obviously to remix, you can pull things from other songs, other sounds, kind of put them all in different orders and make it your own creation. Number 2, to preserve sounds that may be lost in the future. For those of you in class, if you remember the Stradivarius violin and cello, which I will later cover in this video, but if it's an old instrument we're afraid, or an old sound source we're afraid that's gonna be gone in the future, we can record it and keep that sound alive digitally. And lastly, to overcome physical limits of an instrument, kind of going back to my example of recording every single pitch that your voice can sing. So a human could probably only sing, like exhale. Like I've only heard somebody maybe exhale the most like 2 minutes max, right? But if you put your voice onto a computer and you just hold down that key, you can probably make that computer sing your voice for hours if you wanted to. So you can overcome physical limits of whatever instrument you're trying to reproduce using sampling. Now let's go over to Thursday's essential question here. So March 17th, March 18th. First of all, what is a loop? Once again, just give me the definition that I gave you, which is a pre-recorded audio clip that you can use in your project. Next question here, how do you slowly add in a volume, effects, or pan? You use automation. As simple as that. If you guys don't know what that is, I'll cover it later in the video as well, but we learned about it during class. And lastly, why should you name your project? So no one can steal your ideas. I remember talking about copyright and making sure you have your name associated to whatever you create so nobody can steal and make money off of your creativity without your permission. Okay, so always put your name on everything. our fourth topic. All right, these are notes from Monday and Tuesday, and the topics are sampling and a slight review of our music tech history facts that we've been learning these last 2 weeks. Okay, so on the screen you guys see right now that sampling is what you guys need to have in your notes. So kind of reading off of the slide real quick, sampling is when you use live sounds that are recorded and assigned to individual MIDI triggered keys. So let me give you an example of this before we kind of dive into what that means. So live sounds, guys, live sounds. So stuff you can record in the wild, in the natural world, right? You're trying to record something and you assign it to, one second, let me grab my keyboard. So for example, if I go outside and record maybe like glass breaking or something, right? And I'm like, okay, I want that sound on this key. And then boom, there's glass breaking. Now I want a sound of a car starting. And I'm gonna put it on this key. So when I press this key, that the car sound will start. Okay, that is sampling. You take some sounds from something, assign it to different keys on your, and then boom, that's sampling. Okay, so let me play. So the example that it gives on the slide right here is if you had a guitar player and you recorded every single note the guitar player is playing on the guitar separately, you can assign each of those notes on a MIDI keyboard, and then you can make a MIDI instrument, the track instruments, you know, on Soundtrap, out of that, and it'll be all really real sounding on a guitar. All right, so let me give you guys some examples. I showed this in class, but just real quick, I'll run down, do a little short version of what I did in class here. So there are some orchestras that people have used in movies and video games to make their compositions. These are actual recorded live orchestras, but it's technically fake because they're not playing live. This is all sampled orchestra sounds, and then people like us, music producers, we put them together and make it our own piece, our own composition. Again, it's not being played live. All right, so here we go. Virtual instruments, right? Right, so everything sounds pretty real, but again, it's not being played live. They recorded certain instruments, the orchestra, and then music producers like us, we kind of rearrange them, and then we make our own songs through those. Okay, next, I talked about the Stradivarius violins, right? They're the super duper expensive instruments, and there was a museum in Italy that had one, and they wanted to let people like us have access to the sound of such an expensive instrument, right? So they shut down 20 miles of that within that 20 miles of that museum, and they hooked up a bunch of microphones on stage to record a Stradivarius cello. You can kind of barely hear it here. Right, you see all those microphones hooked up, and he's playing as many different sounds, as many different notes, as many different styles as possible on that instrument. All right, that's an example of how you could sample an instrument here. And again, the funny story I told you guys in class was somebody 15 miles-ish within of this museum slammed their car door too loud, and these microphones could still pick it up. That's how sensitive it was. Right, that's how sensitive those microphones were. All right, and here's another example of rock sounds, again, that were sampled from real instruments and real people playing them, but this actual song that you're hearing is not them playing. It's somebody, music producers, putting them together to make it sound like a song they created. Yep. And then lastly, the choir. And this is a super expensive sample pack where you can actually type in words you want that choir to sing, and they will sing it for you. They recorded a choir saying and seeing every possible syllable in the English language so that you could do this.
Magic. Introducing Hollywood choirs. Type in any word and have it sung by a blockbuster choir.
Prepare for battle. Very cool. Continuing our Tuesday notes here. So if you were in class, you would remember that we did a Nearpod of us competing against each other to get these questions right. But instead of that, since I'm by myself right now, right, and you guys are watching at home, we're just going to go over each of those questions on that Nearpod and to kind of discuss the correct answers here, okay? Again, these questions are most likely going to be on your test, so it's good to review these. And if you got wrong during the Time to Climb Nearpod here, I'll suggest you write down the correct answer. Okay, so here we go. First question: what is the correct example of a digital playback medium? Remember, digital, right, is something that has to kind of be processed by computer or going through code, right? So LP, nope, that's an analog. Cassette tape, that's magnetic tape, which is still analog. Your own voice, that's your natural sound, so that's still analog. So compact discs are CDs, that is a digital playback medium. A computer had to write the code and data that goes into a CD, okay? And to play a CD, you have to use a laser in a computer to actually read that. You can't just stick a needle on it and you'll hear stuff. Question 2, what is not an example of a digital playback medium? So be careful with these type of questions, guys, on the test, the not. So I would suggest the way to tackle these type of questions, find examples of it and then cross those out. Find what are examples of digital playback medium. iPod, yes. Spotify, yes. Smartphone, yes. So cross all those off because those are examples of digital playback medium. And then boom, vinyl disc. That is not the example. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Question 3, what instrument was the first fully electronic synthesizer drum/beat maker that serves as the basis for modern hip hop drums? So you guys need to know these particular landmark instruments. Okay, Yamaha DX7. No, Yamaha DX7 was a keyboard piano. Okay, Audi R8. For those of you who know that's a car. Okay, theremin, definitely not a theremin because theremin did not make beats. It was the Roland TR-808. Question 4 here, what type of instrument is the theremin? The theremin, because it's making its own sound, there's no coding or there's no computers going on here. The theremin is an analog instrument. So most of these questions so far are going to be asking about analog or digital instruments. Okay, you have to remember, is it going through a computer? Is there code going on, or is it naturally occurring in that instrument? Yes, a theremin makes the sound by itself. There's no code, there's no computer helping it. So it is an analog instrument. The Hammond B3 organ, Moog synthesizer, and the RCA synthesizer MK1 are all examples of what type of instrument. So if you remember, those instruments are, again, they produce the sounds themselves. So they are analog instruments. Okay, definitely not ancient because we still use some of these once in a while. Mana, definitely not magic. Okay, and definitely not digital. Once again, no code, no computer. Question 6, true or false? All electric instruments are digital instruments. No. What I just showed you, Hammond B3 organ, Moog synthesizer, RCA synthesizer, MK1, the theremin, those are all analog instruments, but they have to have electricity in them. So that is definitely false. It's kind of like all squares are rectangles, but not rectangles are not all rectangles are not squares type deal. Okay, electronic, you can plug them in and whatnot, but not all of them require, a computer. Not of them all require a code to make it function. Question 7, all-time important question here. What does MIDI stand for? What does MIDI stand for? It stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. So that's honestly just something you guys have to know. MIDI instrument, MIDI, the code, right? MIDI is how this thing right here, my keyboard, talks to the computer that I plug it into. Question 8, what is Soundtrap classified as? A DAW. Again, because you just kind of have to remember that. A DAW, digital audio workstation. Question 9, what is the common pop song structure? What is the I should have said what is the most common pop song structure / form, and it is ABA. ABA, because there's something that repeats, the A section, new thing B, and then A always comes back. So that is one of the most common pop song structures. Okay, definitely not ABC 1 2 3. There are no 1 2 3s in the type of structure that we've learned so far. All right, question 10. This is one of the most missed ones from this Nearpod and from the last Nearpod that we did before. So select the correct chronological order of the invention of these devices. So what came first, right? Wax cylinders. We're missing a few in there too. We went from wax cylinders to wax discs, but I didn't include those in today's question. Okay, so wax cylinders, magnetic tape, those are all analog still. Okay, CD, that's when the digital car coming along, and then YouTube music. YouTube is relatively young still. Okay, I remember a time when there wasn't YouTube. I think maybe most of you guys were already, when you guys were born, YouTube was a thing. But I was alive before before YouTube was a thing. Here we go. Who made the first instrument that could provide playback audio from a recorded wax cylinder? There's also something you gotta know, because the instrument is also named after him too, right? It was Thomas Edison. Okay, the Edison phonograph. You guys remember that? Yeah, Edison phonograph. And then the last question: true or false? Analog sound waves look like steps and are blocky looking. That is false. Analog sound waves are actually nice and smooth, okay? In nature, everything's usually pretty symmetrical, really nice and natural. Digital sound waves are the ones that look like steps and blocky, because computers code is trying to replicate that nice curve, but it's trying its best and it can't. Okay, it can't perfectly replicate that nice curve that natural sound waves have. All right, so that is the Nearpod. Make sure you, again, if you don't know some of these answers, you review them on your own and study them on your own. All right, so we are on our final 2 topics here. So basically kind of going over automations and loops in a new project that we're starting. Okay, so if you guys weren't able to catch up on our new project, here we go. Okay, so let's make a new project. You guys always should be paying attention to making sure, boom, you know the steps to make a new project on Soundtrap. So enter studio, that big purple button right there. That's how you make a new project. New project music, clicking music. And first step is always what? You guys know it. Renaming your project. So click untitled song up here. Renaming your last name, underscore, first name, dash, and this project is going to be called Loop Project. LOOP project. All right. We're going to learn the final 2 functions on Soundtrap that you guys can use. And then after that, you have literally the whole toolbox of Soundtrap learned to use to make your songs and projects for the rest of the semester. All right. So let's start with the first one here. Automation. Boom. Automation is the effects that you apply on instrument / project tracks that are controlled by software. So instead of you, when you record, you manually go in with your mouse and turn in those knobs, you know, to do effects or turn on the volume. You can actually get the software. You can get Soundtrap to do it for you, so you don't have to manually go in. It does it automatically. So you need a way to remember that automation does your effects automatically. All right, so let's make 2 tracks real quick. This is what we did in class, so you can kind of walk through what we did here. So I'm going to go into add new track. I'm going to add 2 tracks real quick, just any instruments, and I'm going to record something real fast just to make some noise. Here we go. Recording this right now here. Make some noise with these instruments. Okay, and then make some noise on the grand piano as well here. Okay, look at that beautiful recording. Okay, so now automation. To access it, I'm gonna zoom in on this real quick, and you'll see automation is this icon right here. If you hover over it, it says show hide automations. This little icon that has a bunch of dots with lines connecting them. Click it. A dotted box will show up with plus automation. So I'm going to walk through each one and demonstrate what each one does real quick. Okay, I'm going to mute this instrument so you can hear it specifically on just the piano. Click it in, and we're going to go with volume first. So volume, if you guys don't remember, loud and quiet, right? So here we go. This red line that just popped up once I hit volume, that represents the volume of that track. So I'm going to make a dot real quick. And then I'm going to drag this dot down. So look at that. The whole line goes down now, right? It means it's super duper quiet. I'm going to make another dot right here. Bring that dot up. And look at that. That part stayed down. And it is going to slowly make the volume go up as the playhead, when you play it, as the playhead gets there. Then near the end of the clip, I kind of want it to fade out a little bit quieter here. So I'm going to make another dot here to stay loud, and then near here, once it passes this dot, it's going to get quieter. Okay, so let's hear what that sounds like. You can't really hear this fade. Let me fade out a little bit here. So notice how it gets loud, then soft again. All right, so it gets soft there and gets loud there. That is volume. Okay. All right, so let's do sweep real quick. Again, sweep is like the sound filter effects on your instrument. So we're going to do muffled real quick. So what it's going to do, when you bring it all the way down, that's where the muffled effect will be in play. And then as you bring that dot and that line up, it's going to go back to a normal piano sound. And again, I'm going to bring it back down here, and it'll go back to being muffled sounding. Okay. So let me make, see, look how many dots. You can make a bunch of dots and make it go kind of crazy if you wanted to. Right, as it goes down, you hear that it gets kind of whoop, like somebody put that piano in a little box or something, right? Or like a bunch of styrofoam. All right, so that is the muffle, that sweep, right? The sound filters. And now lastly, pan. Pan is one of my favorites because you can really do some cool effects with it. So pan, if you guys didn't know, it is that stereo effect. So you can actually move the sound from the left side or right side of your headphones or speakers depending on where this line is. So if let's make a dot in the beginning, right in the middle, that means the sound is dead center. Most of your projects so far, if you guys haven't been messing with pan, is the sound just kind of goes right in the middle of both left and right of your headphones or speakers. So let's make it to the left here, and it should just come out of the left speaker or left headphone. Right? If I move it to the very top, it's going to come out of just the right headphone. Now, if I move it around, so make a dot here, it's going to go from left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left again. Right, so if you guys were listening to it on headphones or speakers, you probably should have heard just slight, like if you closed your eyes, it would have sounded like the piano was moving left to right in your ears. Okay, so those are all your automations that you can use. If you remember, our next step in class that we did here was we deleted everything, because that was just a demonstration of how to use automation, right? So let's delete everything real quick. So actually, oh, look at that little pop-up here. I am satisfied, yes, but I don't want to give you feedback right now. All right, so let's start back to blank, because we're actually going to start with loops. Loops are pre-recorded audio clips that you can use in your projects. Again, pre-recorded. They are pre-recorded by somebody. In this case, we're going to be using ones from Soundtrap. So people at Soundtrap recorded these for you. Okay, so real quick tips, two really quick tips about loops. Number one, loops in Soundtrap are not made by you. People at Soundtrap made them, right? So if you ever make a song using these loops from Soundtrap and you release it to the public claiming that this song that you made was yours, and you do not credit that, hey, you used loops from Soundtrap, you could potentially be copyright strike. So don't let that happen to you. If you ever do make a song, make sure you credit them. Second tip, loops are great for inspiration. I don't want to say don't use them. Use them to help you explore and create your own ideas. But when the time comes when you have to make an original song, you should try to make every single aspect, the beats, the instruments, what the instruments are playing, obviously the harmony, the melody, the bass, that type of stuff. You should try to be as original. You be the one to make it. You can use loops as inspiration, kind of help you structure what you want in a song, but don't let your whole song be loops. So like, for example, when you guys are starting to make your final CD project at the end of the semester, you can use loops to inspire you, but I really do not encourage you to use too many, or maybe not any at all. I want these creations to be your own creation from your mind. So I'm going to show you now where to find these loops on Soundtrap. So if you take your mouse, again, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because my screen is quite big here. I'm going to go to the very right of the screen. There's two little circles right here, the purple one and the blue one. And we're going to click that purple one, the music note on it. Okay, and boom, look at all that. Click the X to clear the search here. Those are all the categories you can choose from for loops. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to zoom in again. Boom, zoom in. And if you see this icon right here, if it looks like a sound wave here, that means that is an actual audio file. So it's just sound waves. So I'm just going to pull that in just to show you guys real quick. I'm pull that into the project. Look at that. Those are actually just like pure audio. I can't do anything with them. Like if I try to double click or try to edit them, you can only like edit a name and do fade in, fade out. So you can't actually go in and go into the piano roll to edit anything. Okay. But if you find one that has this little music icon, music note icon, drag that in. That's what we call a MIDI clip. Notice how that looks just like how when you guys record on a Soundtrap. So if you double click it, look what happens. The piano roll actually appears. You can actually go into instrument, adjust the instrument, or actually move around these individual notes if you wanted to. All right? So those are the difference. There's audio, actual audio files on your loops, and also MIDI clips, MIDI audio files. Okay. So if you guys noticed, as I was dragging in loops, look what happens. When I drag it in, drag, there's a little purple bar that shows up here. That is what we call the cycle mode in Soundtrap. Okay. So wherever this purple thing is, you can make it longer or shorter if you want. It will just keep repeating whatever is within that purple bar. For our use case right now, we do not want that because we want a longer project. So to turn that off, it's right next to that loop library button. It's this little circle with an arrow in the shape of a circle. Okay, so click that and it turns off. All right. So I'm going to really quickly make something to show you how easy to kind of just drag and click. For this project, I would say try to stay within a genre. Okay, so I like this thing a lot. Let's look at that as an audio clip. Yeah, I like that feel. Oh yes, I love these chords. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna add some more things here. Get some more movement, and look at these are both MIDI files. Nice, okay. All right, yes, I need something a little bit longer, so that's perfect here. All right, let's hear what that sounds like. Well, look at that. Boom, we made like a quick 13-second clip, right? Very cool. And now we have reached the final topic of today's video, which is the requirements for this loop project. So first requirement, it must be 2 to 3 minutes long. I hear a bunch of you gasp already. Okay, so 2 to 3 minutes long. So to find that in your project, you'll see down here next to the record button all in the bottom, that's the timer that you'll see, the stopwatch. So if you move your playhead around, you'll see where in your timeline makes how much time has passed. All right, so right now so far with what I just made, that is 12 seconds. So in my project, if I go all the way to like 57, that's a minute and 27 seconds. If I go over to about 79, that's 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Okay, that's the bare minimum. So if I really wanted to go above and beyond to make sure I get 100, about 3-ish minutes, that's 129 measures. The second requirement is that you must use loops. Duh, because that is the title of your project. So you got to be using these loops in the library. The third requirement is that you must use automation. So go ahead, click into these little automation icons, add in at least one of them. So one or more on each of your instruments. I'd recommend you doing most of your instruments, add something, some fade in, fade outs to make it sound a little bit more natural. So my final tip for all of you guys on this project is that just like in the My First Song project, you doing the bare minimum will not get you 100 on these projects from now on. So for example, I said it must be 2 to 3 minutes long, right? If you just do 2 minutes, you will get just barely the passing grade. If you only use 2 or 3 loops, you'll just barely get a passing grade, like a 70, 70-ish, right? And then if you just use one automation, again, yes, you did with the requirements, but you won't get a 100 on your project. Okay, so if you look at me, I have four loops right now. I do not want you guys to do this. You're like, oh yeah, I made a really good sounding thing. Yeah, I'm gonna repeat the whole thing until it is matching my length requirement. No, do not do that. Try to use some inspiration from real songs that you listen to, right? Most songs have an introduction, kind of like 1 or 2 instruments going, then boom, your first little melody, first little tune, then maybe a build up, right? Build up, but then beat drop. Your melody 2 comes in, and then maybe come back to melody 1, and then conclusion, right? So kind of use your inspiration, use your songs that you listen to as inspiration to make this loop project. Again, you can just pull so many sounds from the loop library and really try to explore and find inspiration for your future projects that we're going to do. Okay, so that is it for the video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or during class, Zoom chat me, and then I can answer any questions about that. Again, our test is next Wednesday and next Thursday. So ask away any questions or any concerns you have about that or our loop project. All right? Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you in class.